let me know when it's on. And I see that it is. So I'm gonna get started. Welcome everybody to our Utopia Skye grid meeting. We do these every couple of weeks, not on a regular schedule, but especially when there's something important to address. Certainly there is now because I want to initially address a warm welcome to all of our new residents, the Discovery Grid folks that are looking for a new home and considering Utopia Skye Grid as that location. Welcome, and we'll be very happy to welcome you here on USG. I have a long time positive working relationship with Balpine, and I respect what he's doing. The new work that he wants to take on with regard to technology and the grid stuff is very much worthwhile. And it also is important because we've worked together with regard to NGC in the past. So, and I can address and I will address why that remains important to me versus something that's a different technology direction. But they're both worthwhile, and I'm glad to see them both getting work done. So, some of you have been members in the past, or you currently are. I want to talk a little bit about what USG is because I think it's important. Utopia Skye was created not long after Inworlds closed down. Um, with many of you, I know I see lots of friends I knew from Inworlds. We were residents there, and of course, I was a contributor to the grid software there as well. When Inworlds went down, I didn't want to give up on virtual, but I also wasn't sure I was ready to run a grid just yet. So we did a short little stint in DigiWorlds, and pretty quickly discovered that we needed the flexibility of our own grid in order to be able to do the things that we cared about. Specifically, we wanted to continue to do Golden Touch, the dance troupe that we had in Inworlds. So Utopia Skye was born initially from that in mind, with that in mind, that we would use this as a way to continue to do GT shows, and that I had control over the technology because it was our grid, and we could make sure that the shows would still go off the way we intended them. The other thing, and also important, was that we wanted all of the people that had been affected by the Inworlds shutdown to have a safe place to land. And of course, the GT folks, but also others. We had a number of other people early on that came over. People fairly explored a lot of different places when Inworlds uh, ended, and that was to be expected. We got some of them here, and Discovery, of course, got quite a few residents as well. Others went to Kitely and so on. So all that stuff was good, and but our goal with USG was just to provide for GT and provide for the people that chose to make this home. And in the process of doing that, and running an OpenSim grid, I realized that I wasn't entirely happy. I made some attempts to try and work with the core team of OpenSim, and it was pretty clear very quickly that the direction that they're in is not the same as mine. As in, I actually care about intellectual property rights for creators. I want people's work to be protected as best as is technically possible. Because I think people have a right to be able to do that and determine what happens with their work. And I want a safe place for people to consume what others have done and also enjoy it. So um, that led to the creation of the NGC project. Uh, NGC stands for Next Gen Core. It's a play on Star Trek. Um, Make it so, the next generation. Probably not a very good play, but anyway, that's partly where it started. The point was to do an open sim that puts some definite value on the state of the technology where we protect people's assets and stuff like that. So that project was started. Ballpeen quickly got interested, and we've been sharing effort and code for a while in that regard. There's other people engaged in the project as well, um, and I can happily say it's been growing. But I am the primary committer to the project, so it remains my baby, so to speak. Um, and that's actually important because it's one of the reasons why um, I'm going to continue to do work and develop on OpenSim and keep the grid running as opposed to a new technical direction. As I said, I'm not criticizing the new direction. In fact, I think it's really important. Um, our virtual world interests kind of need a refresh, technical refresh, and so having some people look in that area is a really good thing. Um, but I also think that what we got uh, needs to be curated and maintained, and that's my focus. So, with regard to Utopia Skye, since it's the kind of flagship grid for NGC, it will continue to get updates and be maintained for the foreseeable future. I still have a full-time day job, and I see that of course takes some time, but I see OpenSim and NGC and Utopia SkyGrid especially as kind of my retirement plan. I hope it's going to help me to stay sharp and focused and continue to be able to explore my interests and things. I keep getting into Star Trek. I want to say explore new worlds. And anyway, it's important to me, and I'm going to continue to do it for a long time, as long as it is practical. Or another alternative presents itself where that makes more sense for all of us. So, anyway, I'm going to continue to do that. I have good working relationships with the Firestorm team. Beck, who's the developer on Firestorm, is um, principal developer, is a friend and a member in the NGC project. So, we can collaborate and share information, and we do, and that's very helpful. Um, and we're going to continue to grow this thing. I've got some new features actually. I'll talk about in more detail coming up, but some new features that we're going to be rolling out with the next release, which is very soon because I have some code in here that is important for this transition. Um, but let me. So I've tried to address where we came from and who we are. NGC and Utopia Skye. And also why you can trust us. Like I said, this is a long-term project that's not going away. And GT remains an active effort, and we're going to do a show coming up. We've had some health issues that have slowed that down a bit, but we're going to do a show coming up here, and we continue to develop and work as the dance troupe that we are. So that's important. But I want to touch on a few things. There are some resources in Utopia SkyGrid that I want to mention for new residents that might not be aware of it. There is a region called the Creators Guild. We had that actually over in Worlds, and it's over here as well. We're not trying to compete with store regions or people that want to put up malls and things like that. But what we do have is a place where any resident can take a store and use it to display and sell to the community. Um, so if you're interested in that, it's fairly easy to. We'll give you more information actually when we get to the Q&A section. But that's available as a resource if you want to have a small presence. Um, you can do that through the Creators Guild. There's also some space on uh, the Welcome region. If you haven't seen the Welcome region, it is heavily influenced by the original Welcome that Inworlds had. It's got this kind of stores around the outside with the central landing area and the bridge and all that kind of stuff. If you haven't been here, well, you would have been here because if you created an avatar, but I'd encourage you to come over. all the stores around the outside are designed for people to be able to display and give freebies to the residents, similar to what Inworlds originally had. And if you're interested in that, Callie can help you out. There's a group you have to join in order to be able to res here. But otherwise, you're able to put some goods out, and you can use that as a way to advertise and get people to your shops. There's the sandbox regions. Recently, we had a call for some water-oriented regions, which I think is a great idea. I opened up one of the waterways right next to the sandboxes so people can res water vehicles. Uh, and we maybe do some more work on some of this stuff in the future as we build some of the new regions that people are going to bring online out. There's also Clutterfly, which if you're probably familiar with it. It's a huge region of free stuff. A lot of it is content creator oriented. It's a little dated, but it's you make of it what you can. There's actually some good stuff in there. Um, so, and it's all available to the residents. Um, I can't read my writing. Public regions. Yes, there's other public regions that you should explore. The whole grid is organized around what is supposed to be an S. It sort of looks like an S, but there's a whole set of central regions with waterways and connection points that span out. And I want to address the waterways too. Uh, the there is a memorial for people that have lost loved ones that want to put out a candle to remember them. That's a beautiful region. There's the Sky Ballroom area, which is it's usable for events. It's basically a large ballroom and garden kind of region. There's a lot of stuff all around the S that you should come out, in addition to the sandboxes and things I've already mentioned, that you should come out and explore. Just look around. There's some really beautiful stuff there. Sky meditation area. We were doing in-world meditations. If there's interest, maybe we can start that up again. But um, lots of good stuff on the S, and all those are public resources that you can take advantage of. And I've mentioned welcome in the shop, so that's most of the stuff. I just wanted to make you aware there's resources here that you should explore and take advantage of if you can. Um, they're uh, they're kind of the center point for the community stuff that we do, and then you know we have the waterways which are basically built out from that center. So there's feeder water areas that people can site regions against. If you buy a region and you want to be attached to the waterway, you can. If you do that, you also agree to keep your region for open entry so others can come through. Basically, the idea being that it gives us a very large saleable water area. The Discovery folks, of course, will be familiar with that because that's also something that Discovery Grid had, and it was requested early on here as well, so we built it out that way. Um, yeah, so that's the main things I wanted to address about resources. We can get into more in Q&A if people have specific questions. I want a couple more things to talk about, and then I'm going to turn it over to Callie for some Discord stuff and some of the support things that she does. Um, for people that are bringing content over via ORs, I've got uh, an update that's pretty much ready to go that I'll be putting out on the grid early next week, probably Monday. Um, it is it has a couple of major changes in it that I'm kind of excited about actually. I'm going to touch on a few here, but the main one that is relevant today is the OR changes I made. But firstly, it has display names in it, similar to SL display names, so you can modify the name you're visible by via that. Um, it has SL experiences. If you're if you're not from, it's usually done with coding. Experiences are a way of tying a whole set of things that would normally require opting in into one single message. So you opt into the experience, and then the experience gives permission to all the other things like animating your avatar and things like that. It's useful where you don't want to break. Um, you want people to see things in a consistent way, and you don't want to break it up with constant prompting for permission. But anyway, that this code has the experience support. Both of those features, I want to give a shout out to Stolen Ruby from the Mobius Grid. He's the primary developer of those things and donated that code. He's an active contributor to the NGC project. So again, that's one of the things I like about the project is we have other people that have also been longtime contributors to OpenSim or wanting to be OpenSim contributors writing code for this. So, and then the last change that I did specifically for this current effort is related to OR files. So traditionally in OpenSim, when you load an OR onto a region, what happens if it gets loaded on the same grid that you came from, all of the user IDs that are identified there, of course, are local, so they get found and things get restored to the owners of the objects that normally would have them. In a case where you go and you take an OR to another grid, the normal thing that happens in OpenSim today is that it can't find IDs for all kinds of people, including the original region owner from the other side. And so it just assigns everything to be owned by the current region owner and the state owner, which makes a kind of mess of things, as you can imagine. Because if there are objects, for instance, that are no transfer, the new owner has them and is stuck with them. They can't give them away. You can't give them back to the original owner, that sort of thing. So I added a while ago some code to OpenSim um, to add the support for what I call user aliases. And what that is basically a mapping that says that this user ID is the same person as this local user in our grid. And so in the scenario where you were loading ORs, what I did was do lookups. So prior to loading an OR from Discovery Grid, say, I can put in mappings that say that this user from Mike Chase from Discovery Grid, which has this ID, is this user over in USG. And if you see an object owned by that person, map it over to the local user so that everybody retains ownership. That's not something that's available in standard core OpenSim. It's only in our NGC software. And what it does mean is that when I load ORs going forward, I'll be able to account for ownership so that people keep the stuff that they should be owning, and more importantly, they don't end up getting stuff that isn't really theirs in the first place. So um, it takes a little bit of maintenance because we have to maintain the alias table, but it ends up meaning that things like a rental region, if you actually had a region and you rented to other people, if I brought that OR over and created it on a new region here, all of the objects by the renters would have been assigned to the region owner, which is not what you want, of course. In this case, if they have local accounts on USG, you can add the mappings and they continue to own their stuff when it gets brought over. And again, people don't end up getting assigned ownership of something that they don't own. So um, I'm looking forward to getting that out on the grid. I'm probably going to roll it out, as I said, on Monday. And then I'll use that going forward as we load ORs for anything coming over from Discovery Grid or any other grid for that matter. And I think that hopefully that should make the transition a little bit smoother and people will have a good experience with what we're doing. So I'd actually like to add support for the parcels as well, but that's not done yet. So, and I didn't want to delay this release, so I'll do that in a future version where we also translate parcel ownership, which would allow you to take a rental region and bring it over just pretty much intact. All right, one more topic, and then I'll stop talking for a while and let Callie uh, talk a little bit about some things, and then we'll open it up to questions. Pricing. I think our prices are really good. My philosophy about the prices are that what you pay for a region here should be similar to what you might pay for a night out, or for some entertainment. I can make a corollary to like the price of having an MMO subscription for a month or something like that. Um, and that's kind of the way we set it up. That means that some things are additional. So, like for instance, if you need more prims than we give by default, and our prim allowance is actually quite generous, I think. But if you need more prims than that, there's extra charges for those things over and above the standard price of the region. Similarly, if you want an ore backup, just to have one, which is perfectly okay, there's a fee for that, and we basically use that as a way to monetize the additional things and the additional work that we have to do to keep the grid going, over and above that baseline, which like I said, should be like it should be like you paying for entertainment, because that's what I hope we are. Um, so that's in a nutshell how I view pricing. Some things are going to be cafeteria style, like I said, for things, and we also try and give discounts in cases where we can. If you're paying months in advance, a couple months in advance, we'll give you a discount for that to try and say thank you for the cash flow part. So, but none of this is, as you probably have guessed, we're incorporated. Utopia Skye is an LLC. I did that for a lot of reasons. We run it like a business, but this isn't really, I can't say it's a nonprofit business because that's a specific thing, but we're not exactly in this to make a ton of money. Mostly what we're trying to do is have our GT community in a place and provide a place that's safe and fun for a lot of people. And that's the main reason it's such a pleasure to be able to welcome everybody over here. I hope you find the same experience for yourself as you come over to USG and become part of this community. I'm really excited to welcome all the new residents. All right. Um, Hopefully you were able to hear me. Nobody said anything, I don't think. Um, but I'm going to turn it over to Callie, and let her address a few topics, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Well, it certainly helps if I unmute myself. Hi, guys. I do know how to use Discord, I promise. um, so, one of the things I wanted to cover, because you're now in a new Discord server, and how we arrange our server may be different than how Balpine arranged his server or anybody else has set up their server. The way that we have set up our server is via categories. And really, what all you need to know about where do I go to post or where do I go to find something is what is it you're trying to do? Do you want to talk about the grid? Do you want to post something about the grid? Do you want to post something in the user channel, which is our Utopia Skye education resources channel, kind of like our school? Or do you want to post a joke or a meme in the media lounge? That will tell you where to go. And then at the very, very top of your channel listing are the default channels. And we've set it up that way so that if you just cannot figure it out, if you go to the coffee house, everybody in the server can see what you post there. So if you're lost and you're, let's say, looking for that peer-to-peer support channel and you just don't know where it is, go to the coffee house. Say in the coffee house, hey, where do I go for peer-to-peer support? Inevitably, somebody will link you to the right channel. So I'm going to take a little screenshot of the way the Discord looks for me, and I'll post it in here. There's two states that you want to think about when you think about categories. One is expanded and one is not expanded, right? The screenshot that I've just posted in there shows you the categories of this Discord server not expanded. So if you're like, well, what the hell is she talking about, this P2P support? I don't see that. I don't even see it in her screenshot. You're correct. The categories are now minimized, which allows you to see more real estate, more screen. Now, in this next screenshot, if I were to expand the Utopia Skye grid category, you'll see that there are several channels, including some voice channels, that aren't shown if the category is minimized. And you'll see that in that is the peer-to-peer channel, P2P support. Ultimately, though, Discord, while it has been a wonderful communication tool, they've been adding features and quests and all sorts of nonsense in some cases. I understand it can be confusing. At the end of the day, I am telling you this is a very true statement, and I'm not just saying it to say it. If you get lost, if you have concerns, if you don't know where to post, or you have an idea to post something, but you're just not quite sure where it fits, you are never going to go wrong by right-clicking my name and choosing send message. If nothing else, I can tell you where to go. I might even be able to give you tips on how to do it. If you don't want to message me, you can go to peer-to-peer support, or like I said, you can message in the coffee house. The other thing to remember is we have several voice channels available based on specific needs. Again, the big primary question for you is, what is it I am trying to do? Am I asking a question about the grid? Am I asking a question about something else? That will tell you what category you want to go to. But if, again, you get lost, the easiest thing to do is to hop into the AFK room, which will auto mute you, and have whoever it is that you're trying to voice with drag you to the appropriate channel. And in most cases, it's me. So I will always tell you, if you can't find a voice channel, hop into the AFK room and I will drag you down to wherever you need to be. My goal with Discord, despite their trying to make it more convoluted, is to make it as easy a communication tool as possible, because it is our primary method of communication. And this is very important. You don't have to speak. I know a lot of people don't want to do that, and that's okay. But all of our communications about grid updates, about pricing updates, about shows, about events gets posted in Discord. We do not have external forums. We have forums, as you can see in that screenshot here in Discord, and they are used. So please do make use of them. The other thing I want to draw your attention to, there's two channels that are very important that everybody needs to be aware of. Mike is working on the website changes where listings and stuff will show up there and you can put your own listings in, etc. But in the meantime, until we have that set up, what we have in Discord are two channels. One is called USG Events Notification, and then there is USG Events. I'm going to put a screenshot just so you can see. These are both located in the Utopia Skye Grid category, and they're both very important. The USG Events Notification, and you'll see it in the screenshot, it has little bubbles around USG. That's an automated tool. If you have an event that you want to appear in Discord as an event so Discord users can see it and join it, whether it's in Grid or only in Discord, you want to give that information to me. And I'll link the post where I detail what information you need to give me. I will then put it on the calendar for you, our public calendars, and then it will appear in that USG Events Notification channel. It will appear in your time zone. So it's relative to you, which is helpful for Europeans and for us Americans who can't do the conversion. And it will also appear in the grid time zone, which is important. Every event we list is always in the grid time zone. The other is the USG events channel with that little, I don't know what you call that, that little something icon in front of it. That is something that you yourself can post in. So while I'll post a USG events notification, you can also post in the USG events section with a graphic, like an advert picture of your event as well. And make use of those. People are used to looking at them. And the third way you can do an event is in world. In world event notifications do work, group notifications do work. I believe, and Mike, you can correct me on this, offline email is still in the works. Or has that been fixed? I can't remember. It worked at one point, but then Core broke something, and then I don't think we got back to it.
I just don't have
But
it turned. I don't have it turned on, but it could be enabled if we find that that's a useful mechanism.
okay, okay. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's something in the future, but in world notifications work. So please do send your messages in groups, and there are multiple groups. If you have a shop and you want to post your wares, you can do that in the Creators Guild group, and that goes to everybody that's in the Creators Guild. And if you have a shop on the Creators Guild, you must be in the Creators Guild group. You have to. There's a shopping explosion is another group in World that you can send your notice through, as well as your own groups. So we do have tools and resources for visibility. You just have to make use of them. And I can help anybody with those. If you don't, see a channel, I see what you said there, Craig. If you don't have USG events, just news, I can take a look at your permission sets and make sure that you guys have everything set right. What I would ask you to do is, especially if you're interested in posting in those channels, what you want to do is take a look now and see if you have those events. The last thing I'll mention before I overload you guys with Discord stuff is if you're a merchant or an entertainer, you are going to want to visit the USG Role Options channel, which is located under Resident Announcements. I'll put a screenshot. And you're going to want to tick on Merchant or Entertainer. The Merchant or Entertainer role allows you to post in the USG Events channel or in the Ads channel. Our ad channel is under the category USG Merchant Ads, and that's where you want to post links to your shops when you put something new out, links to how to get there. Some people have multiple regions, like some is Globits region, some are Skybucks currency regions. You want to make sure that you post the hops there as well. And for example, and not for any reason other than just an example. So this is, you can see how people post some of these ads. Oh, my screenshot didn't take, hold on one second. Relative to ads and things like that you want to post, you want to make sure that at the top of every channel, you take a look at the rules, and those are located at the top of every channel. So if you go into the ad section and you see the title of the channel, like work in progress, there's rules for those channels. And all they are is it tells you expressly what you can or cannot do. And usually when you look at those channels and you open up the rules, you can do that by left clicking on it. It'll bring a pop-up in the front of your screen that will tell you exactly what you can or can't post. It's super helpful. But again, like I've said before, I know that this can be a complex mechanism. I understand that it can be overwhelming, and I'm more than happy to help people out. All you have to do is right click my name in the server list or go to your friends list if I'm already your friend and send a message. And I think that's it for my Discord presentation. I do have one or two other things I want to just briefly mention. We can expand on those things later. One of them is our what we call a tourism bureau. InWorlds had the mentors. DG had, I can't remember what DG had. Balpine, what did you call your greeters? I don't remember, but along the lines of the mentors of InWorlds, we have what we call our tourism bureau. The idea was started by Flamey La Follette, who's also on the grid. because she said, you start off as a as a tourist, you come to visit the grid, but you wind up staying. And so we ran with that idea, and our quote mentors are called tourism agents, and we have uniforms and all sorts of things. It's really a funny idea. If you want to join the tourism bureau as a guide, message me and let's chat about it. We have very little rules. We don't have a stringent. I think in InWorld you had to um, spend X amount of time on welcome. We don't even have that. We have a paging mechanism, so you don't have to, stay on welcome. But it's a really good way to help new folks. And most people coming to USG probably have experience on a grid, but if they're coming to USG on a new avatar, they may not know where to get Ruth and where to get, all these other things and what's the best way on welcome to get to whatever. And so a tourism guide it would be immensely helpful. And we'd love to have people join our efforts to do that. Our goal on the grid is to be a warm and welcoming place. Um, Not so much a mechanized, grid where it's like, hey, join here and, very cold, do this, that, the other. We really want to put the warmth to our greetings. Okay, that's all I want to mention. Um, are we opening up for general FAQ, Mike? Should we just do that, or do you have more you want to talk about?
I
Because
have
I'm good for now.
I have one real quick thing.
Okay.
It relates to Discord actually. So if you look in Discord, Callie talked about the USG events notification section. If you go to there, there's a listing of events, one of which is for today, Saturday, September 21st. And it shows your local time and the grid time. There's an event for Fetish Fire that I am DJing this evening. And today happens to be Callie's birthday in real life, so I think this is possibly an alternative to have a party and roast her a bit. So I would encourage people to come on out if you if you're able. And I will say that it is an adult event. The club is adult. There's rules about like no sex in the club, blah blah blah. So nobody is going to do anything horrendous, but we try and stay open-minded about um, people having adult fun. So anyway, if you're able, come on out. And then that's it. I will turn it over to our moderator and questions. Yeah, and if you don't want to speak, okay. If you don't want to speak, you can type in chat when you have the floor. We mostly just use the rest of it you're welcome to speak if you want to, um, but if you don't want to, you can type. We just want to try and keep ordering.
Okay. Hi there. This is Bal.
Hello.
Gonna just answer a couple of questions. Yeah, we used to call them guides.
Guides.
Um,
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't
and
remember. I'm sorry.
you're right. It was similar to what you had. Yeah, we got rid of that whole residency thing because it really didn't make any sense. It just wasn't
Okay.
enough traffic ever to make that happen, other than maybe at the very beginning. Um, and having
Okay.
an auto messaging thing like what you have, that's really important because in case someone's not around, they can hop in. But a couple things. The about the ores, um, because there's some people here who got some early ores. I'm gonna recut a couple of ores that I've already sent to people because I the new ores will have identity information on the creators as well, and that will then enhance what people can do on the loading in side. So Mike and I talked about that in the last few days, so that'll improve things. And the other one about IMs to email. I have a standalone applet that does all that for me in DG. I'll be quite happy to donate that to Utopia Skye if that's useful to you.
Yeah, it is. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I found that the emailer thing that's in Core OpenSim is just awful. So
Yes.
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it
so
is.
basically, you can just turn all that off because I go through the IM tables and then have my own system that does a nice delivery. One of the nice things that it has is that if people send a note card, it will expand the note card in the email. so you can read the note card without having to go inworld. People often will send a texture with an invitation or something, so it'll expand the image as well, so you can see it in the email as well.
Oh,
So
that's great.
it's a really nice system. So I'll send to Mike and I will talk and we can get that set up.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey there. Hello, hello.
Hey.
Unmute.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Loud and
No,
clear.
not at all.
Oh, damn. Quick question about the experiences you teased. I know in Second Life there's a premium for people to use experiences. Will experiences be available for everybody?
Yes. Yeah.
Like no extra cost?
No cost. No
Correct.
extra
No
cost.
cost.
Perfect. That's it. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everybody, and hello, Mike.
Hey, Roy.
Hello. Oh, I can't speak today. I've had a rough day. One thing I would like to bring up as a veteran, you talked about the memorial. I remember in Ambrose there was like a separate place that had the Vietnam Wall and stuff like that. Is there any chance that maybe in the future you might think about doing something like that? That's my question.
That would be fantastic, and it is something I'd love to do. My vision for the Memorial region included not just virtual, but also pets, veterans, all sorts of things, because there's many different ways that we want to remember people and things like that. I think that's a fantastic idea, and I'd love to work with you on that.
I know in the United States, we celebrate two holidays which reflect on our veterans and service people. One being Memorial Day, and the other one, which is coming up shortly, is Veterans Day. So that would be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be great. Fantastic idea.
And very appropriate for the Memorial
Okay,
region.
that's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cool.
Phoenix, you can speak if you'd like, or you can type your question in the text channel there, whatever is best for you.
Sorry, I didn't watch the screen. I didn't click accept.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Just one quick question, Mike, about the data that I've forgotten the name of now. The basically where it's key value pairs. It's prim data. That's the one. The word I'm looking for.
Link set data.
Yeah, you said there are differences between your implementation and in other places. How does that manifest? AKA, is it just a case of resetting the scripts on a non-NGC region, or does it just not transfer full stop?
So I'm not going to speak in detail for what Core did, but what I'm aware of is they use the same API, so the call should be the same, but the data is not compatible.
Correct.
He's used a different format for storage, which is deprecated in C#, and I didn't want to use that. And then there are the limits that are set for the system are not the same. So I used the limits directly from what Second Life advertises, so they would stay consistent. And he actually uses a slightly different approach and lower limits, in fact. So the net effect is that you should be able to reset scripts. If you take and write scripts against link set data, you should be able to reset the scripts when they arrive in an open sim area, and they would start recording data using his calls, but there's no data portability between NGC and Core.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. No. So Jillian asked if there was a charge for uploading of an OR. For a region owner, I'll upload an OR along with the price of the region. In the past the original setup, once you're established, if we have to do that multiple times, that's not a problem. Prefer not to, but so I'd like to get the alias stuff set up as best as possible before we load an OR, so we only do it once. But if we have to do it again, there is a charge. In other words, I can load ORs in the future and I can make ORs in the future, but there's a service charge for that.
Yeah, but for the initial, there is no charge.
Right. No charge for the initial upload.
I realized that I think Dea had to leave. Did he post his question anywhere? Did anybody see?
I didn't see it.
He didn't. Yeah, I didn't see it. Okay, we'll have to touch base with him later.
So the other thing too is that both Callie and I are very reachable. We can tag team and do whatever we need to do to support. We follow the PDP channel as well, so if there's something to jump in on there. But if you have questions outside of this meeting, again, that's what Discord is for. Just message us and we'll do what we can to take care of things. In some cases, we may ask you to make a ticket if something is going to take time and we don't want to lose the conversation or lose what's going on.
Yeah.
But we're trying to be as responsive
Thanks.
as we can be.
Yeah, the support site at this minute is a separate web URL, but you can get to it just by going to Utopia Skye Grid. If you go to utopiaskye.com, like if you forget, oh, geez, what was the website? Just remember utopiaskye.com, period. You just go there, and at the top of the page, there's a menu, a persistent, it never leaves. If you click Utopia Skye Grid, there are these boxes, create an account, resident dashboard, or support. If you click that support link, it will take you to the website where you can open a support ticket. And the support email or address is just support.utopiaskye.com. Thank you very much, you guys. Once you don't need to create an account on the support site. You can put tickets in as a guest, but if you do that, make sure you make note of your ticket numbers. If you make an account, which is encouraged, you have access to your history of tickets. So you can always go back if you want to, if something's going on, you want to submit a ticket and you think it sounds like something you submitted before, you can actually see your ticket history once you've created an account. But also our pricing sheet, when you log into the support site, is also at Support Center Home, which is right on the top menu of the support site itself. So you can literally log into the support site and click the link for the most current pricing sheet. Our prices don't often change, but if they do, the pricing sheet gets updated on the website, on the support site, in local links, and it gets posted. So we believe in as full transparency as possible. And we also believe in responding as quick as possible to tickets. We do have SLAs, so standard response times. If the grid is down, no matter what we're doing, that gets an immediate look into. If you're having a problem with a display name, well, we've got a turnaround of 24 hours. And what that allows for is, if this happens and you're a European and it happens at your morning time, or and we're in bed. That allows us some time to finish sleeping and answer your ticket. But I literally am on the support site all day long. So you will always get a response. You will never be ignored. Penske's working on that mega alarm system, yeah. Thank you for that compliment, by the way, Streaks, about us being responsive. I really appreciate that. We have lots of programs that we want to kind of get going, and things that I think, are just enhancements to the community. So if you have an idea you'd like to kind of get going, or, just like in InWorlds, if you want to run an event, or go ahead, do what you do. But if you want to run something that's part of the official events or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us at any time. We're fairly open-minded, and anything that involves the community and supports a community atmosphere, we're generally down for. So, be involved. Let's let's make grids great again.
So
Sorry,
Julie,
I had to do that. I'm sorry. I'm gonna mute now.
you asked about can ores be additive? Yeah, you can do a merge. And then when you do merges, you can control whether land is merged and or objects and so on. So you can load something multiple times. There, it depending on what you're looking for, it usually is possible, but it because you can also do things like cut out a chunk of an ore and move it someplace else and things like that. That's getting fancy, but it's all possible to do. Yeah, so you can do loads multiple times.
Yes, please remember, raise your hand because we want to answer everybody's questions, no matter how long it may take. But it only helps everybody if we can kind of keep a semblance of order and answer those questions. My mom was a teacher, so I was raised with teacher voice, Roy.
I've actually also learned that sometimes if you're soft spoken, people listen more attentively.
Hey. Oh, Shell, we appreciate it. It really, Balpine and Mike are pretty much round the clock working on trying to make this as seamless and as painless a transition as possible. And, my thought process is, you know, if we do what we can to make this less of a traumatic thing and more of just a change, then you guys don't lose inspiration and everybody benefits. So, it's like Mike was saying, we want to make enough money to keep the coffers in the green, right? So our goal is not to make a whole lot of money at this or to, be the biggest. I mean, it'd be nice if we were, but I would love that kind of growth to be organic, and it starts with the people. It starts with you guys. So, you know, it's in everybody's interest to make sure that this is as warm and welcoming and community like an environment as possible. So
Boy, shall hear that's like it in a nutshell right there. And there's so much drama in OpenSim that I totally agree with you. I want this to be a safe, happy place for people to be and explore their virtual selves, and hopefully as drama free as possible.
there is something I feel compelled to say. Um, One of the biggest things that I see happening, and Balpine, you had to go through this just a minute ago, well, a day or so ago, is the rumor mill. If you hear anything about USG, about Mike, about me, about anybody on this grid, or anything like that, don't entertain it. Go straight to the horse's mouth, as they say. Balpine, you had something happen where there was some rumor about the grid closing immediately or something along those lines. And, the first thing is like, look, don't pay any mind to people. Go straight to the person involved. And that's true for anywhere you go, frankly. We run ourselves professionally with heart. I don't know how else better to explain it. And as I mentioned before, I'll say it again, we're also as transparent as possible. But that also means we should be and are willing to answer your questions. And that should be the way it is for anybody, no matter what they're selling, that's taking money from you. I am very, very big believer on this.
So, actually, that's a good point. And there's something related I wanted to address. It came up in a private conversation, but it's relevant because I know that it's the kind of thing that can create drama. There are a few grids. So Utopia Skye grid is open to the hypergrid. You can go out from any region um, on the grid, and if you want your region open to the hypergrid, you can take incoming traffic. You can also close your region off if you don't want. If you want it just local only, you're allowed to do that. There are a small number of grids that are banned from hypergridding into Utopia Skye grid. The that is mostly the Russian grid, Sacrarium, Caprica, that kind of stuff. things that where we know that there's definitely theft happen. One in particular that I get asked about frequently is alternate metaverse. Unfortunately, the way they operate that grid, I just cannot allow incoming traffic, because it would be like a sure recipe for people's content being stolen. There, in particular, they allow God mode, and they actually charge for it, which I found out recently, and I'm somewhat appalled by. But that's an example, and I know that one is probably troublesome to some people, because some of our friends from Inworlds are probably over there. But because of the way they run their grid and their grid practices, alternate metaverse is also banned. So the list is fairly small, and it's in general, if I ban an entire grid, it's because of their grid practices. The grid operators are not doing what they need to do in order to protect content. So we talked about full transparency. I just wanted to be open about that, because it has come up in some private conversations where people asked.
Hello again.
Hello.
I do want to say that Mike and I coordinate a lot of things. You know, we've known each other since Inworlds. We're both contributors there, and we both have very similar ethics around this sort of stuff, especially IP content protection. So the grids that I have banned, and it's only a few, are pretty much the same as the grids that Utopia Skye has done. It's for an important reason. It's not just that the grids themselves have stolen content, although that's bad enough. It's that there is an effort among many of these grids to basically throw things into other grids to basically taint them. The familiar thing, if you might remember, is that there were all these little boxes called stuff boxes that you'd find all over the place. And what was happening is Aquarium was dropping these boxes any place where they could res them, so that people would then be picking up a bunch of the stolen goods. Now, the reason they did that is that they have shifted to a model where you can subscribe to their grids, and then that gives you access to high quality stolen content, which is why they're dropping the stuff boxes. They're basically advertisements and things like that. So, it's one thing that there's access to a grid like that, but it's quite another that they're actually salting all the other grids that are trying to play the game right
Yeah.
with their stuff. It's appalling, to say the least.
And yeah.
And yeah, so there's that. And the other thing I was going to say is we're having a very, very close coordination between the transfer of ores from Discovery Grid over to Utopia Skye Grid. In fact, all this stuff with making sure that the owner ID gets properly aliased, and all of this stuff is a result of rather long conversations for many, many days across many time, several hours of our time to make sure that this happens. So, for example, if something happens with an Orlo didn't quite do it right, we'll talk with each other, and we'll make sure that I can recut an ore, and then send it across. So, to people from DG, don't worry about your ores. If there's a problem, we'll take care of it. So we really are trying to take care of you all to make sure that the transition from DG to USG, especially to USG, happens. If you go to other grids, I can't quite help, because it turns out that many grid owners really don't want. They're highly competitive, and so they don't want to have a conversation like that. So your mileage may vary if you go to other places. You were saying, Kelly.
No, I was just, it was going back to the other grids transition stuff. There were a couple of questions in chat that I'm kind of reminding people to raise their hand for, because I think a lot of people will want to know the answer to these questions, and they may not be following the text chat as diligently. So,
Right.
and we've got a queue going. So, yeah. Which is great. I think this is great, and we really should make use of this, because that's why we're all here. You know what I mean? We need to get these, and you should ask these questions. So don't ever feel like you're bothering. If anybody makes you feel like that, well, you might not want to consider giving them your money.
Yep.
So,
So true.
yeah.
Okay, Jillian, so what kind of things might cause problems with an ore? Do things ever come over corrupted?
In-worlds might, some of the,
Yeah, parcels is the one thing I could think of. I mentioned I didn't get a chance to go do the aliasing thing for parcels as well. So those will get assigned back to the estate owner, but otherwise it should be pretty good. We had some issues early on with in-worlds ores, way back when I had to load a bunch from with initial stuff. I'm hoping never to have to see another one of those, to be honest.
yeah.
But for the stuff that we're talking about here, where largely you're coming from discovery, the content should be pretty good. And we'll if we do hit an issue, we'll work on it till we get it right. So
Yeah, for the most part, from Discovery to USG, we're essentially running the same code. There's some tweaks that maybe Balpine had that we don't, or we might have the most updated NGC, and maybe they, Balpine didn't at the minute, or I think that's really the only difference, and those aren't going to make or break an ore.
yeah, good news is we were running essentially the same software, so
Mm-hmm.
and the same script engine and so on. So a lot of the kinds of things we had with other loads, like people using inworlds functions in their in the scripts in their objects, those things shouldn't be a problem in this case. So.
And Drew, if you don't want to speak your question, you can type it. But you currently have the stage.
Oh,
Hi, Drew.
okay. Okay, do you hear me?
Yep.
This is to Balpin. After the 15th, are we still going to have access to our avatar inventory? I'm afraid that I'm going to get the ore and I'm going to try and resurrect some project I did, and I'm going to find a script that is not transferred or I can't access it. And the only way to solve that is to go back to my inventory and grab the clean one there and set up for transfer. You know what I'm talking about?
I'll let Balpine address that. You're asking about your discovery inventory, right?
Yeah. After the 15th, is it going to have like a one island open?
Okay, hi. Back again. Okay, so here's, I forgot to mention this detail. So this isn't a complete grid closure. I mean, I do need to divest of all of the other regions because I want to get rid of a bunch of servers because I'm not going to have any income, and so I'm just going to reduce myself to just a couple of servers. But what that means is, yes, there will be public regions still available. They will be open. They'll be hypergridable. But more important, if you don't delete your avatar, your inventory stays with the grid. So don't do that if you want to get access to it later. I will have DG, the little teeny tiny OpenSim part with just a few public regions open for the next year, actually. So that means don't worry about rushing, trying to get your inventories moved from point A to point B. They're going to stay here.
Oh man, thank you. That relieves me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to
Great
just
help.
finish to say, I'm doing this transition. Mike talked about this a little early. I'm going towards a totally new platform, and there's a lot to do. And I think I said that in my community meeting. And it really will take me about a year to make sure that everything is just right, so that we can have something that's very close to the equivalent of what you think of as virtual worlds and OpenSim, but not exactly. It's just similar. Then it's just going to take, but to do that, it's going to take my entire time to do it. And so I had to be able to not be running a grid while that happened. And so what I did is try to find a way to transfer people over to a grid that I know I trust, and I do trust USG to take care of all of my residents who are now moving off. So.
Good stuff. All right, who has the floor?
Gopher. He wants to know if he makes an item in AMV, will that be allowed in USG?
Yes.
Yes.
So you won't be able to bring your AMV avatar
Mhm.
into USG, but your USG avatar can go to AMV, assuming they
Well, if they
it
haven't
does,
blocked us, yeah.
which is possible. I don't know the answer to that.
I haven't tested that recently, but they could have blocked us. So
But if they do allow a connection, then you could give that item to your USG avatar that way. Eventually, my goal is to do as much filtering at the edges when stuff transfers into the grid. And then we can actually get rid of a lot of full-blown bans and
Mhm.
just look at content. But right now, yeah, you'd have to pass it through another avatar to get it over.
Right.
Yeah, so if the question is, will I allow an item created in AMV? Yes, um, the same, but the same thing is true. If I find through because we got a DMCA or because um, it's just obvious that the content is botted, then I will do a takedown on it. That's part of the intellectual property protection stuff. But in this case, if golfer's made the item himself, it's not one of those things. So
Right.
it's not going to get taken down. It should be fine.
Yeah. And Streak just said yes, we can reach AMV from USG at the minute. So
Okay, good.
Okay,
Yeah. So
just a quick
okay.
one about the OAR loading and the mapping of IDs that you talked about. Have you got any way of taking information from a closed grid such as the one that I had?
if you know the UI, if you know the UUIDs, um, so this gets a little bit interesting. Because the benefit of being able, like, if I set up an alias between Discovery and USG, I can go over to to Discovery and check that this person is the same person. For something like your grid, certainly I can have a chat with you and you can vouch for it. It's just a matter of establishing trust. If somebody came to me and said, "Well, here's an OR, and oh, by the way, you don't know these people, but here's a list of IDs I want you to map," I'm going to have to. I would look more closely at that, of course, but um, so it's really a matter of trust. And but in the general case you mentioned, because I know you ran a grid and you had residents there, and you want to bring content over, if you know the IDs, I would be inclined to trust you and put those mappings in place, so that they would come over cleanly.
Perfect, thank you.
Mhm. Hopefully that made sense and didn't come across as a cheeky answer. I'm trying to be as honest as possible. I just want to protect people and their content.
I mean, that's the bottom line is we do take content and creator IP, protection very seriously. And trust is a very big word. It's not to be taken lightly around here, especially with regards to NGC. The whole concept of NGC is a trusted grid concept, whereby eventually a number of grids are trusted and agree to certain stipulations, and so content and people can be moving around freely. So.
Yeah, good. I'm glad, Phoenix.
Oh, thanks, Street. That means a lot to us because we do work hard for that. I mean, really, the market in OpenSim is a race right to the bottom line. What's the cheapest you can get, and we don't sell that point. What we sell is us. Our ability to take care of you and trust. Yeah. So I mean, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Was there anybody else we missed?
Exactly, Royale. Exactly.
All right. Any other questions? This was really helpful to me too, because it helps to understand the concerns you have and
Hmm.
your interests. And
Yeah, I mean,
I'm really, really pleased to welcome everybody. This is
yeah,
your grid now, and if you want to do something and you need help from us for it, come and talk to us, and we'll see what we can do. We just want to make this as positive an experience for everybody as possible.
yep. I want to say thank you to a couple of folks here. Royale, first of all, as the moderator said, owner of Mobius Grid, also one of the grids that Balpine listed as a trusted grid for residents to go to, who also has contributed the display names and experiences code that in NGC and thus USG will be taking advantage of. So we're grateful for that contribution. Thank you. And to Balpine for working tirelessly with Mike. I am privy to some of those conversations. I freely admit I don't understand all of them when they get into syntax and code, but I can see how hard they are working together to make this an easy process for everybody. I also want to thank our moderator, who is doing a fantastic job today, helping everybody get their questions answered. When we end this state of the grid, that's not the end of your ability to ask us questions. This is just the beginning of our relationship together. So if you don't know your question now, but you know it when the state of the grid is over, and oh, dang it, I forgot to ask in P2P support, message us directly, ask in the coffee house. You have the resources. One thing we really, really want to make sure you know is our resources are here for you. If something you need doesn't exist yet, talk to us. We'll see if we can bring it into fruition. And that's, I think that's about it for me. And especially where Discord is concerned, please don't let it intimidate you. I will help you get through it.
Tuna currency.
Tuna, yeah. Yeah, so the grid, that's a good point, Danny. You mentioned the grid has two methods of currency. One is Globux. Globits. Globits is a currency accepted on multiple hypergrid regions. So, or hypergrid grids. I mean, it's a currency that you kind of carry with you. So if you buy 1,000 Globits today and you go to Mobius Grid and want to buy something, you can do it with Globits without having to make another account and buy more currency and all that kind of stuff. Skybucks is this grid currency. Now, the biggest point that about Skybucks is you cannot cash it out. I want to make sure that that's totally understood. However, you can use it to pay for services such as tier,
Tier, yeah.
ask, or requests outside of your, initial or, and certain other services that we charge for. And you can use Skybucks to pay for those. There's a ticket type specifically for that. So you don't have to worry about that. Any merchant usually has a store in a Globits region, and a Skybucks region. When you order a region, you have to choose a currency type. You can change that at a later date, but you have to choose one. You can't have both on one region. It's one or the other. And that's partially why we offer the Creators Guild stores. That is a Skybucks region, and it is only available to USG residents. So if you want to sell in the Globits currency, you either want to take a shop on another merchant's region or have your region be a Globits region.
Yeah, Globits doesn't require that you're open to the hypergrid, by the way. That's a good point.
Yeah. Currency Skybucks are done via a ticket. There's a ticket type called Purchase Skybucks.
So
Eventually that'll be done on the website. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I turn those around as quickly as possible. And I totally understand that that's a pain in the what. So as we get the website straightened out, I'm hoping we can that's one of the first things I plan to address is being able to purchase currency from the website.
Yep.
And yes, lots of dinkies here. In fact, we have a starter avatar that is a dinky, thanks very much to Etheria for actually giving permission for
Yes.
that. she actually provided the avatar that we have as a starter avatar. So when you join the grid, you can tell people they can become a dinky right out of the gate. So
Yes. Yeah, our dinkies are legitimate dinkies. They are not the bacon mesh dinkies. So if you know somebody that has a bacon mesh dinky, it is a botted dinky. Now that may change. Ethereum may bring those later on, but currently our dinkies are the only official dinkies by Etheria. I think she's got a kiosk on DigiWorlds, but again, you can't leave DigiWorlds with any scripts, so they don't really work well there. And Tag? Okay, good. Yeah. Tag is
yeah,
another trusted grid, by the way, but it's a closed grid. So
she does have one in Tag, actually. I hope to get that established. So
Mhm.
yeah, there used to be something in Worlds where they would do home tours, like they would tour
Yes.
different regions. I would love to see that happen here too. A lot of people are building new stuff or bringing new stuff over. I think it would be cool to have a tour like that so people can see what others have done.
Yeah, house and garden tours Belpine mentioned, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks you. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, local hypergrid
Mhm.
safaris.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many things that we want to do that with people coming together to work on them, we can do anything. Our user group, I want to mention that while I'm thinking about it. User is the acronym is Utopia Skye Education Resources. It's our version of a school that we're trying to kind of get underway. I think the initial class is going to be led by Mike at some point about PBR, and there's other classes that people are willing to offer, such as mesh bodies and I don't know, textures and things like that. There were a couple of things, but it's not just virtual classes. The user um, school group, however you want to phrase it, is designed to be all encompassing. So there'll be classes on like mental wellness and like autism and things like that. So it's not just virtual. It's because virtual isn't really a game. It's more it's a separate kind of life, but it also involves real life. So there might be some other things there. We also have a group currently going called Reflections that spends time discussing virtual and real life that you can get in on and join and things like that. So, there's a lot to be said for getting in on the ground level of things where some may look at it and say, oh, well, this isn't all set up already. But it's also your chance to set it up too, the way you want to see it, the way that works best for you. Um, and you have very receptive owners that are willing to help, enable that.
So we've been at this for an hour and a half. I can't believe that. I really want to thank everybody for being so attentive and
Yeah.
interested. Um, but
Yeah.
unless,
Balpine says 7.1.10 is stable, seems
yes, so
stable. So please get 7.1.10
yeah,
Firestorm.
I will start looking at the PBR class now that we've got a viewer and a public and code on the grid that supports it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other questions, please? P2P support. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's difficult, in a setting like this where it's just Q&A, but I know there's a lot of information. So if you think of something later, please ask it. But thank you for your time today.
and just a quick reminder this evening at Fetish Fire, Allie's birthday.
Oh, Jesus. 3 p.m. grid time.
Yes.
Hope to see
Thank
you
you.
all later. Have a
Take care,
great rest of your
everybody.
day.
Yes, have a great day.